This is Big Man Tyrone, and you're about to watch the MTG Cabal cast with your hosts, Woad, Thirsty, and Reptar. Sub to us on all your podcast networks at MTG Cabal Cast and YouTube.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to the newest episode of the Cabal Cast. This one is going to be another wonderful doom and gloom episode. How horrible and horrifying is Double Feature for vendors? Pun, because scary movies.
It's true.
Anyways, let's get it going.
I think this might represent one of the first times as a large vendor I just don't give a shit at all. Something we're going to key in a lot in this episode is that while the verbiage about surrounding this set has been standardized using the words combined cards, the expectation was a curated list. Instead, we're just getting the smash burger of sets, and it's both Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow smashed together. And the cards are numbered, but not out of set. So we're seeing, 530-something cards in this set? It's almost like mystery boosters.
It's dumb. The only reason I care is because this feels to me like Chronicles Light.
Okay.
It feels, although Chronicles was a curated list, this is like, hey, here's this cool alternate version of this product that everybody knew was coming, that contained both of the last two sets we released that didn't really sell too well. And by the way, we're not giving you, but tell your players they can get it on Amazon if they want it. So here's Double Feature.
Yep.
Also, fun fact, Double Feature is pretty highly allocated. When I say highly allocated, I don't mean there's a lot of allocation. I mean, it's very tightly, specific allocation on stuff. And
Okay.
It's like, bruh. Come on, guys.
Yeah, as an LGS, I think I feel differently than a vendor, but as a large vendor, there needs to be draw for this product. It's primarily been marketed as a draft product. And cool, you get the black and white treatment on your cards, but if I don't know what the demand's going to be, I'm not going to order it like a regular set. And I literally just ordered 2 sets from you for standard. Mm-hmm. I don't know with Kamigawa coming up after this, right? That's the next set. I don't know how much I'm willing to spend on a product like this, or if I'm just going to let my buy list bring it in.
For me, this is something that I would honestly we're in the million variation stage, right?
Yeah.
We got our showcase versions in Crimson Vow and in Midnight Hunt. Mm-hmm. And now we have another variation of a set that is literally just variations of those cards.
Yes.
It's a variation set in a variation era.
Yep.
To me, that makes it kind of unique. So I would almost be the opposite of you. I would almost over pursue this product, thinking that, all right, well, if we still have supply shortages, which we do, if we're still struggling to get Crimson Vow in and Midnight Hunt, maybe this is another one of those products that, as a large vendor, I would target in a speculative manner. As an LGS, not so much, obviously, because Wizards is already just, not taking me out to dinner and bending me over. So why would I waste more money on something that may just not sell? Because, like you said, it's marketed as a draft product. Drafts aren't really firing, at least here.
They're not over
Drafts
here
aren't
either.
firing at the LGS.
No LGS that I know that was holding drafts for Midnight Hunt were firing towards the end of the life cycle of that product.
Yeah, it just didn't happen.
I'm going to ask you a question, and don't cheat because I know we've been sharing these links back and forth. How long do you think it is between Double Feature and Kamigawa Neon Dynasty?
So we had a month and a half between Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt.
Yep.
And we got a month and a half between Midnight Hunt and Double Feature. So it's got to be 3 months, right?
18 days.
Are you fucking kidding?
20 days. Nope. January 28th for Crimson Vow, February 18th for Kamigawa.
Jesus fuck.
All right,
guys, whatever.
I don't have money as a vendor to allocate to a dress set like this. I can buy it afterwards. Or
if it's available not on Amazon.
Yeah, or let my buy list crank and bring stuff in if there's demand for that. How I'll find out is by reading social media and see what people are talking about. Like, just check what people are playing on live streams, you know?
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of Kamigawa 2 Electric Cyberpunk Boogaloo.
Yeah, I'd move in on that. Based on what I've seen from Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, and, you know, wallets are tight heading into holiday season, so a lot of this data is kind of obfuscated by that. I don't know how much of this product I would bring in. When I say I don't want to touch it as vendor, I don't mean I wouldn't buy literally any of it, right? I'm going to bring in some amount of it to crack, but I'm not going to treat it like a regular set, and I probably wouldn't treat it like one of the yearly Commander sets, where you just buy and bust, right? Like, and sell some sealed. I'd probably bring it in actually just for that. Hold it sealed.
I will say I think it's a good singles opportunity. I can't recall what wholesale on it is. I want to say it's more than a normal draft booster set. But if that's the case, it may, like, that does change the buy and bust equation, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a certain wholesale value that makes it worth it. And if it's more than the, $74 or whatever,
it is for
probably not
me. Yeah.
worth it as much.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. This might be a set where my ratio of hold to bust is a lot different than it usually would be because, I don't want to.
It's a 500 card set.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to fill all my holes. I'm not going to. If I put up a mythic non-foil for pre-order and somebody buys X4, my pack crack math is insane. And I just don't think I want to touch that, especially now. Coming into this, when I hear, not curated, that's just the word I've been floating around, combined set as a vendor, I probably still don't think curated, but I might be a little leery of what's going to be in there because it's curated and you don't know how WotC's going to curate in the first place, so I'm probably not going to be buying a ton anyway as a vendor, and my idea is I'm probably not going to be cracking a ton of this to pre-order 4X of the new Time Walk spell that was in Crimson Vow, or Sorin the Mirthless, the new Olivia. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to let Crimson Vow take care of it, and my buy list can pick up the rest, and I think that's really what I'm going to do. Anything else that I'll pick up will just be sealed for people to buy out from me. I would not be hands off, but I would throw my hands up when I read it's 500 and some odd cards. I'm just like, well, fuck this,
that's
man.
just absurd.
It's...
And it feels like, all right, it feels like they felt like there was a hole in their release cycle and they wanted to throw something else in. So they just remastered the last two sets because we already have the art assets and playtesting done. Yeah. So we can just rehash this and not have to design a brand new set for it.
Yep.
And that feels a lot like, I'll make an analog to video games. So anyone that pays attention to Final Fantasy series knows that Final Fantasy 13 was like a 7-game series. There was an interview that the art director did, and he basically said, look, our art budget for this game was huge. We had so many assets, we could have made multiple games. So we did. It literally sounds like when they were brainstorming releases, they were like, let's just make this traditional generic fantasy horror set and milk it for all we can.
Oh yeah.
And make 3 releases out of it. It's just like, we have all these assets, we invested all this money, let's get as much return out of this as we can. And it feels kind of like almost a test run with the release cycle.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to split the setup in 2 and release them a month and a half apart.
Yep.
And we'll dip our toes in and see how our player base does. And if they respond well, we can do that again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We can start doing it every year. Then we can start doing it twice a year to just kind of upcycle.
Yeah, it kind of also
cycle.
brings back the block feel.
Yeah.
Of combining these 2 sets, stretching one set into 2, and then creating another curated, quote unquote, experience off of that. The other thing that I think is interesting is, we talked about Crimson Vow a lot over the last couple of episodes, and it's difficult to dredge up a lot of the interview around that, like from a year and a half ago when it was released initially, and mentioned that it was going to be a supplemental set. Now, what we don't know is if Double Feature was actually meant to play into that initial idea of one of these is a standard set, one of them is supplemental. We didn't know if it was going to be supplemental draft, like an actual master set, or if it's going to be supplemental like some kind of Commander, or at least like a Commander Legends, right? which is still a draft format, but bear with me, and then tie the room together in double feature to lean into what you were talking about, but then also bring in this draft experience where you get like a set and a half's worth of cards that all actually play well together instead of just a lot of the air that's in both of these sets to bolster a draft environment. But that's like a fly on the wall kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't feel like this was a draft set. If this was a draft set, you wouldn't have it divided the way it is. Like, this is two sets with two different draft themes in the draft format that you're just making into one. It feels like a less good version of Shards Block Draft, because Shards Block Draft had absurd mana fixing at the very least, and it was just bomb, 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 bomb. And Crimson Vow Midnight Hunt is not.
No. It's weird to think about. Midnight Hunt thinking back on the events that I've played, doesn't seem to want to play forward into Crimson Vow, but there are aspects of Crimson Vow that want to play backwards into Midnight Hunt, but a lot of that has to do with synergies for card types that don't exist in Crimson Vow, like leaning on your werewolves and humans more. That was Midnight Hunt. And some of the zombie stuff that's there. That plays together. But your vampire stuff is all in Crimson Vow, and Midnight Hunt doesn't play forward into that. So it seems really weird to try and bring together and create a cohesive draft environment. I mentioned Mystery Boosters up front, just in terms of set size. But at least Mystery Booster, they were up front with and like, fuck all. Whatever happens, happens, right?
Yeah. They just straight up said, it's a chaos draft format. Have fun.
Exactly.
Whereas double feature is literally like, hey, we're going to try to, milk that Christmas money up for all we can.
Yep.
And right into a 20-day later set release, which is just absurd to me.
I think I was present for 3 or 4 release events in a row this weekend, between playing and judging, and if memory serves, I don't remember seeing any 2-color deck in any event. It was all the lightest, or the closest you would have gotten would have been 2 colors splashing a third for a bomb or a piece of removal, and you're doing that off of a basic or 2. I didn't see any pure 2-color decks. It just didn't seem to happen. It doesn't seem like Crimson Vow really supports that in the sealed environment. Draft might be different. I haven't experienced that yet. But it is difficult for me to imagine these two sets coming together and really fleshing that out and creating a 2-color draft environment when you have little fixing across both sets and sets that played fairly well as 3-color like decks
draft.
Sealed. And draft, Like,
or sealed format, No, and I think it's, it speaks to, again, the just overall product design of what they've been going for. That's just, we want to get it out quick, fast, and in a hurry, and we're going to do our market testing with people that may or may not actually be our market, because maybe they play Magic, maybe they don't. They're certainly not an LGS owner, I can tell you that much. But it seems to me like it's one of those products that, as a larger vendor, or kind of even as a backpacker, I'm probably going to pick up a case of this myself and just sit on it, because I don't think it's ever worth less.
Because it's
like, I don't think we run into the Gate Crash fiasco or Dragon's Maze where we're just sitting on this shit forever.
Nope.
But I mean, as an LGS, I would be wary of this product, because, like you said, like Cyberpunk Boogaloo is right around the corner after that. You can't pass that up, because that's like, one, a new standard set with actual new cards rather than rehashes of old ones, and it's a new draft environment, which come January, February, attendance on events starts to pick up again. People are going to want to draft the new set. They're going to want to be in on the new product, the new standard, because there's going to be cards in it for Modern. There's probably maybe 1 or 2 cards that make their way into Legacy, and God forbid we get a JIT reprint. Not going to happen. Just let's do that now. I think we get a Splinter Twin reprint before we get a JIT reprint. But I think that, it feels like if the LGS doesn't get it, it's fine. We'll have it on Amazon. The product.
If you want, I understand that too, because these sets being 20 days apart in terms of release, you would have been pulled around the same time for these, right? For
Mm-hmm.
double feature versus
Yeah.
Kamigawa. And that means you're pretty much going to push your chips into Kamigawa over double feature, maybe picking up a little bit of double feature just to have. But now knowing that as an LGS, Midnight Hunt drafts started to taper, maybe to nothing. If Crimson Vow drafts don't hit, what do you do? What can you do in that instance? You're locked into your order for double feature, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can always pick up less, but when you pick up less than the distro, like, you know, especially lately, like full disclosure, our rep at distros has been like trying to pull extra product for us from other shops that don't pick up all their product because it's so hard to get product right now. And the thing is, when those shops don't pick it up, they typically may not get another allocation after that. So you're almost beholden to like, all right, I guess I've got to get some amount of this product because I can't just like, I can't pass on it.
Yep.
It's just like as a backpacker buying, right? Would you ever turn down a collection? Would you ever just like someone local be like, nah, I'm not interested? No, you just shoot a low number because the second you say no to that, all of a sudden business starts drying up.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And it feels really bad because it's almost something I've noticed over the last year is the supplemental products like double feature are more tightly allocated, and their allocation is less contingent on your standard product and what you get, and more contingent, at least in terms of what the distro is willing to work with you on outside of your direct allocation. It's more contingent on your other supplemental product pickups.
Okay.
So as an LGS now, I'm worried if I don't pick up double feature, I may not be able to get extra whatever Masters set comes out. That may hit me there because I didn't pick up half of my allocation of double feature. They're like, hey, look, it's really tightly allocated and these guys picked up extra last time. So this extra bit that we were able to allocate you on every set before is going to them instead.
Got it.
And that's one of those behind the scenes LGS things that I think a lot of people don't necessarily know goes on is like, you have your allocation, sure, and say I'm allocated 18 boxes and that's all I'm supposed to get. Well, my rep's going to go around to his other accounts and be like, hey, are you picking up everything? Because I've got another store that wants 6 extra boxes. They want to get to 24. Okay, you're not going to pick everything up? I'm going to put it on their account then. Thanks, appreciate you. Well, now next time, I may be short extra boxes.
Got it. Yeah, that's interesting to think about, that future distro can be beholden to something like this, because then at that point if this product just doesn't do well, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Damned if you don't.
Yeah, because it might just sit on the shelves and rot.
And it's, the distro will buy it back, but they won't buy it back at what you paid.
Oh, absolutely.
It'll be, a percentage less, obviously, because they've still got to make money on it.
Yep. This debacle of the combined sets at 100% was probably, short of maybe some Games Workshop stuff, which seems to never end, the most obnoxious thing going on for my LGS management this past weekend. I was finding that out. It was
3 years of dealing with that bullshit, at least at this point. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, talking about the Viscera Seer on Friday night and the second one on Saturday was a breath of fresh air for those guys compared to the double feature announcement and like trying to figure out what they were going to do with Crimson Vow. Turnout was fine, comparatively speaking to other pre-releases. It was the same or better, but their concern is the draft moving forward. They got their allocation, what they needed for that weekend. This weekend represents allocation for box busting, so people who want to come in and buy product can actually now buy boxes. They were maybe a little overstocked from pre-release, so they had enough for prizes, and
that's good. As
a judge, I couldn't get paid out in boxes. I had pre-release kits as an option, which for me is the same thing. I just took the same amount of product in kits.
That's fine.
Yeah, I was perfectly happy with that because it was the easier option for them. I don't care either way. I'm there for community. I'm not there to pack bust.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were allocated really tightly the first time around, that first shipment wave. The second one kind of opens it up for the average, patron. But if sales are middling to low on this, and the draft is again middling to low, now they're going to be stuck with double feature until the end of fucking time. Maybe running some stuff out of cycle, in the summer when the product disappears and things get slow, and patronage is just down because this is not people here go elsewhere for vacation. People that come in don't want to usually play Magic. So maybe they'll drum up some interest over the summer by bringing back Innistrad like that and use the double feature because it's both sets. A unique product. Like people who were doing the Mystery Boosters drafts a couple months ago. It seemed like every store in the general New England area was doing convention.
There was a
edition.
month here where it was the same thing. It was convention edition Mystery Booster draft.
Yep.
And you know what? It works as gimmick's a bad word for it, but as a gimmick, it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, it's this product is interesting. It sets a trend for a number of things. Never again trust the word combined when they're talking about sets.
Yeah.
That is a good and a bad trend to set here. And this is another one of those instances where it's the same thing between vendors and distro and the LGS.
Yep.
Where it's just you got to get what you get now that I know this for future allocation, but you might not be buying overstock like you normally would for a number of reasons, different reasons between both. And it's kind of interesting when these worlds align when we talk about stuff like this, where it's just if nobody's interested in it, who the fuck is interested in it? Maybe Amazon allocation was the correct way to go on this?
Yeah, maybe.
Because then it goes directly to the people who care about it. Let Amazon sit on it. Let it rot on their shelves.
Yeah. Fuck the LGS, most importantly.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day...
I'm not bitter.
At the end of the day, fuck the LGS.
God. The worst. All right.
It's fun. Pick time.
Yes.
All right. You went first last time, so I'll go first this time.
Go for it.
I'm picking another green card.
Shocker.
Because that's what I do. This is how I roll now. All green all the time. Except for that time I picked Sanguine Bond last week.
Yeah. That's sure. It has to do with life, which is a green thing.
It's true. But I'm not picking an EDH card this week. We're straying. Right?
Are you okay?
Yeah. It's not the new time. It's not the new Time War for Standard. It's nothing from Standard. I'll give you one guess at the primary format for this card.
It's green?
Yes.
And it's not an EDH card. It's got to be modern.
Exactly. You want to go one deeper?
Jund modern?
It could be there.
Okay. All right.
You want to try and pick the card?
What? Oh man, this is...
It costs 3. Colorless double green.
Colorless double green? Well, it's not Thrun.
No.
Because he's
2
4.
double green.
Yeah. Oh, I have no idea.
Endurance.
Oh, yeah.
Endurance, right?
How could I miss that?
Yeah, I've been watching Endurance for a while. I never thought this would be an EDH card. I thought this was going to be an easy constructed call. It just took a little longer to get here than I thought we would. And I'm actually really glad we were able to get in front of it. It gave me some time to watch. So this is added to my list at the beginning of October, which is well after the Elemental craze, but right before a lot of other odds and ends kind of pick up in Modern. Esper Reanimator crops up with Archon of Cruelty, and we get the Crash Gade deck kind of continuing to steamroll, and the Modern format shifts a little bit. So back in October, CK is buying 152 at $20. They're now buying 143 less by just a hair for 26, 30% more. And and I brought the stocks graph up for a really long time. I didn't mouse over it, but I hope everybody saw that nice rope from July through November. Flat. This card's been flat on the market space. 30% up on buy list though. All right. This is exactly. That's why we're looking at this. So I said not an EDH card inherently. There are better, cheaper, and less color restrictive options. However, it does see a bit of play. And Bojuka Bog, Relic of Progenitus, Tormod's Crypt, ways to recur. You can just stay artifactual and get the same effect, if not better. So this is a pick based on constructed playability and how pervasive it has become across both Modern and Legacy. So Endurance is a premier threat and answer in Modern, currently the 12th most played card within the format within the last month. It's a multifaceted card that plays across a large number of strategies like Elementals, Teamer, Cascade, effectively called Crashcade, and Living End style decks. Again, both as a threat and an answer. So this is, we call them two-way players in the NHL. Yep. Offense, defense, sometimes you get a little bit in the NFL too, but that's a lot more brutal, right?
Yeah.
Threat and answer in one card. It is top tier for this. So we're looking at a card that's basically taken over Modern in the last couple of months but stayed flat. My timeline on this is pretty short. So recording this ahead of MTG Las Vegas. We're recording this literally the Thursday before Vegas, and I expect after the event the card will continue to rise like Solitude did before it, right? That's the white one.
Yep.
And as the market price is held relatively steady, but buy price is rising, I would expect to be able to sell this to buy list for a profit almost immediately, but see a decent return in 3 to 6 months when supply dries. Right now, you can arbitrage this to CK for credit, and I believe that's for every version. I'm only looking at set non-foil, but I believe this works for all of them. And the other thing that's kind of good to call out, again, is we're heading towards end of life for Modern Horizons 2 product, and I expect a number of cards like this to begin to increase, and this is one I want to be ahead of. Something to think about is a shift in the Modern format, but I don't really think that's going to pull the rug out from under the spec, as this is a lasting long-term card. It's not just a here and gone. This goes into every strategy that plays green. It's like Force of Vigor before it and Collector Oof as well.
Pretty good. I think it is worth noting it will be hot listed this weekend at $95 for, I believe, $27 relevant. Yep. Because TCG low right now is like 30.
Yep.
So if there is a buy list that is already at 10% below low that isn't Card Kingdom, trend is obviously coming that this card is going to go up.
Yep.
So
yeah, I'm looking at a TCG Player right now, and there are a number of copies on page 1, maybe actually going on to page 2 that you could arbitrage to CK for credit.
Yeah.
Straight up. And,
it's absurd.
Yeah, and you wouldn't touch the quantity they're looking to buy.
Yeah.
What's up, little bud?
No. All right, it's nap time evidently.
Well, yeah, we're doing the podcast. Of course, you got to show up.
Yeah, right. No, I think this is great, and I think it's, of the cards in Modern Horizon, I think this entire cycle is just a good investment because they're all very good at what they do.
Yes.
They do what they do in their color. They're efficient, and they are all two-way players. Grief, Solitude, Endurance are obviously the 3 big ones. I am super high on Fury. Mm-hmm. Subtlety is so-so.
Yep.
But this entire cycle, and especially Endurance, because it has playability in Modern, it has utility in Legacy, it has utility in Vintage, and Solitude has that too, but not as much as Endurance does. Nope. And that's why I think this is, good call out. Timeline is incredibly short on this one, but it's one of those where I don't feel bad if I miss the timeline. It just means the timeline happens again in a year.
Yep. Yeah.
Or something where all right, I guess I have to wait another 3 months. Oh no.
Yeah.
And then you buy less profitable.
Yeah, and I don't see this kind of coming back in Modern Horizons 3. It's not like it's an overpowering thing, but to kind of re-up on this like they did the ley lines, where they and they only even re-upped on 3 of them. They created 2 new ones, I think.
Yeah.
The red one.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see it in Modern Horizons 3, and I don't even think when we go back to Lorwyn we'd see these. I think these are too overpowering for Standard, and rehashing them for the next Modern dedicated set does not seem to be the MO of what they're trying to do right now. So
no. If anything, they'll do 2 or 3 of them, like you said, and then make new ones for the other colors, but that feels bad for a cycle that was intended for Modern, because then there's only 2 new creatures in the cycle.
Yep.
So
yep.
Yeah.
And it looked like you're sticking with Modern.
I am also sticking with Modern, and also sticking with the same deck, kind of, Jund. My pick is Jund. My pick is Blackleaf Cliffs. Did you know there's only 2 versions of this card?
I did not know that at the start.
I did not know that until before the episode, right? It's wild. As many millions of versions of cards as there are, this one only has 2. I'm picking the Scars of Mirrodin one. If you look at the stocks graph, we are in the middle of a drop in price, which is important. If you look at the price history of this card, so we have a surge in price, and every time we get a surge in price, it crashes back down to earth. Cool. Good. I'm glad. we had the reprint in our Return to Zendikar 3.
Yes.
And the price still went up after that because Zoomer Jund, or whatever it's called, with
Luris,
Ragavan and Tarmogoyf and Renin 6 started doing good again.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, we're in a valley. Well, what's going to happen? Well, Paper Magic's going to come back. That deck is still going to be good. And we're probably going to hit another spike where we get up to the $30 to $40 range. It's incredibly relevant because this card is not just a Jund card. It is also a red-black aggro card, which has been showing up a lot more in modern events as well.
Yep.
With Kroxa, everything else, it's just a really good aggro-centric, and it got some new tools in Crimson Vow that it can just do really good things. Timeline-wise, probably looking at about 6 to 9 months, honestly. I don't expect it to be that long.
Okay.
Compared to what it was. Most importantly with this card, specifically with the Scars of Mirrodin Fastlands, they are plane specific.
Yes.
Blackleaf is an area specific to Mirrodin. Dark Slick is a material specific to Mirrodin.
Yep.
Seachrome, Razorverge, all that stuff, it is all specific to Mirrodin.
Copperline. Yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah, Copperline, sorry. So the reprint equity is pretty low here. It has to be like a masterpiece like the Zendikar Rising Expeditions were, or it has to be in a master set.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we get this in a standard set. We may get it in like a modern supplemental,
Yep.
but that's not until next fall anyways. So come summertime, once I would expect we get events back in full swing, this card shoots back up to $40. That's when you can out it profitably, especially right now sitting with a low of around $25, which again, importantly, 95's buy list on this card is, I believe, 22 currently. So it's another instance of, okay, this could actually be, like, this trend could happen sooner than then, but I'm expecting, like, 6 months would be when I'd expect a profitable buy list here.
Yep, I think that's a good timeline for it. That puts us squarely in this. I was thinking about that when you first said 6 to 9 months. I'm like, that puts us in the summer, which is traditionally modern time. That's when CFB and SCG expected to travel to some of their events, and I think there's a good timeline for that. Good call out there. The other deck that keeps floating this through and how relevant is, I don't know, is Asmo decks in Modern, where they're trying to do food things.
Asmo food is fun.
Yeah.
Like, that deck's good.
Like, people keep working on it, and it just seems like they can't quite get it. A lot of the podcasts that I listen to that are Modern-centric just seem to note that. It's just like, it seems like it's there. It seems like all the pieces are there, but people haven't figured out which pieces complete the puzzle yet.
Yeah.
And if that happens, this is another one of those cards that I would expect to see in the deck again, and so that puts a little more pressure on it. You know,
Yeah.
Again with the reprint equity, we know where we're going. Up through the beginning of 2023, and unless Universes Beyond Lord of the Rings or Warhammer is back on Mirrodin, or for whatever reason the Brothers War takes place on Mirrodin, then I don't think we're going to see this come back into 2023. No. And there's not even an actual, aside from Double Masters 2022, there's not an actual master set listed for 2022 according to the set list that I'm looking at.
Yeah, it may be like Double Masters and Jumpstart, but those are Q3, Q4,
yep.
which still puts you squarely in that summer timeline.
Exactly, and the sun keeps shining.
Yeah.
Still, hey, to make
the 5 suns.
Oh yeah, the 5 sun immunities. Thanks, Karn.
Yeah.
What a bro.
Yeah. He is. Karn with pants. Please, cover up.
What were they talking about? Not Karn with pants. Karn with loincloth, but nobody could actually find the definition of a loincloth to figure out.
Yeah.
It's just vintage rotisserie draft things.
Yep. Just VRD things.
But that's going to be it for this week, I believe, right? You know, we can only complain about Innistrad double feature for so long before we get tired.
Yeah, I can keep going, but my wife will kill me if I get too loud, so, you know.
That's fair.
She's sleeping.
So
just like the cat.
We are at MTG Cabalcast. You can find us on Twitter, Patreon, YouTube, and Facebook. The podcast that you're listening to or the video you're watching can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. I am at HaltI'mReptar on Twitter. You are.
I am at Thirsty Sizzler.
We'll see you next week.